Hello, everyone. Hello, good afternoon. I'm Kristin O'Donnell. And Hands to Heart Center Yoga for the People is a nonprofit organization that shares the healing practice of yoga with people affected by addiction, poverty, and trauma in Greater Boston. Hands to Heart Center would like to thank the Boston Public Library for partnering with us on this virtual project. Thank you for joining me for gentle yoga today. And feel free, if you have 2 blocks, to grab those. If you have 2 books that are the same height, you can use those as blocks. If you have a blanket or any cushions you might like for this practice, feel free to grab anything you might need, any water. And in your own time, maybe finding a seated or lying down shape whenever you're ready. Taking a moment or two to settle into the mat, in seated or lying down, maybe finding any props or anything you might like to cushion yourself. And if you'd like, you might choose to close your eyes or maybe keep a soft gaze in front of you. In your own time, you might start to notice your breath. Noticing your inhales and exhales. Maybe being aware of your body if it moves with your breath. You might notice how long or short, fast or slow each breath might be. Taking several moments in this place and allowing yourself to notice your breath, what your breath might be doing, maybe noticing your body to see if your body is moving with your breath. Maybe your chest rises and falls. Maybe your abdomen expands and contracts. Maybe your arms and legs move with your breathing. Taking a few moments to notice whatever might be coming up for you this afternoon. Maybe being aware, if you'd like, of what your mind might be doing. Does your mind have a lot to say? And if it does, anytime you notice it taking over, you can always bring your attention back to your breath. Focusing on your inhales and exhales, and maybe saying to yourself silently, I am breathing in with each inhale, and I am breathing out with each exhale. Experimenting with noticing your mind, your breath, and your body. And in your own time, if you're lying down, maybe starting to make your way to a seated shape. If you're already in seated, maybe continuing to take a few breaths and moments to notice your body. And whenever you're ready, maybe starting to add some movement into your body. You might choose to move your head from side to side. Another choice might be to move your head up towards the ceiling and down towards the floor. Maybe experimenting with one or both of these choices. Maybe moving your head from side to side. Maybe moving your head up and down. If you'd like, you might even add head circles in this movement, maybe moving your head from side to side in half head circles. Or another choice might be to move your head all the way around in full head circles. If you chose full head circles, maybe doing a few in one direction. And in your own time, maybe reversing the direction, going the opposite way. Allowing yourself to move your head and neck in any way that you might like. Please know that this is your practice, so you can choose to move in any way that I might be doing, or if there's another way that feels better in your body, you might choose to move in that way. Finding whatever choices feel the best for you. And maybe starting to bring your head back to center. If you'd like, maybe bringing your shoulders up towards your ears and then lowering them back down, possibly doing that a few times. You might start to bring circles in your shoulder movement. So maybe moving your shoulders in circles in one direction. And in your own time, maybe reversing the direction, possibly going the opposite way. Experimenting with any movement in your shoulders, maybe moving them up and down, maybe moving them in circles. Whenever you're ready, letting your shoulders come down to rest. And if you'd like, maybe adding some movement in your upper body. You might start to move your upper body from side to side. Maybe moving your upper body forward and back. That might be another choice for you. Or if you'd like, you might choose to move your upper body in circles. Playing around with any or all of these choices. Maybe moving your upper body from side to side. Maybe moving forward and back, or possibly moving in circles. Making any movement you choose as big or as small as you might like it to be. In your own time, bringing your upper body back to center, and maybe inhaling, reaching the arms up overhead. In your own time, exhaling, bringing yourself into a twist over to the right side. You might bring your right hand behind your back, left hand resting on your right knee, maybe inhaling and pausing in this place. Inhaling, lengthening your head and spine up towards the ceiling. Exhaling, maybe twisting a little bit more into the shape. Pausing for a moment or two. And in your own time, maybe coming back to center. You might reach your arms up overhead, maybe twisting over to the left side. Left hand reaches behind your back, right hand resting on your left knee. Inhale, lengthening your spine in your own time. And maybe exhale, twisting a little bit more into the shape. Taking a few moments on this side of the shape. In your own time, reaching your arms up overhead and maybe lowering them down by your sides. Moving into a side stretch, bringing your right hand to the floor. Maybe the left hand reaches up overhead. Pausing in this shape if you'd like, or you might choose to come back through center, maybe moving over to the left side. Left hand to the floor, right arm up overhead. Allowing yourself to pause on one side for a moment or two. And if you'd like, you might move in your own time from one side to the other, from left to right and right to left. Maybe experimenting with any movement in this shape. And once you make your way over to the left side one last time, you might come back to center. In your own time, if your legs were crossed, you might start to straighten your legs out in front of your body. If you're seated on anything, maybe moving it to the side. Straightening your legs out, flexing your feet, and pausing in your staff shape. Head and spine reaching towards the ceiling, and if you'd like, you might imagine a string pulling your head and spine up. Hands might rest on your legs or by your sides. Pausing in your staff shape for a few moments. Whenever you're ready, maybe inhaling, arms reach up overhead. Exhale, fold over your legs, letting your hands fall anywhere on your legs. Maybe it's upper legs, lower legs, or maybe your feet. Finding whatever feels right in your body and pausing in this forward fold. In your own time, coming back to center. And maybe extending your legs out a little wider. So maybe Your legs are a little wider than the width of your mat in this place. You might start to walk your hands forward, maybe moving into a forward fold, possibly keeping your back tall in this shape. You might tent the fingers and maybe pausing wherever feels like your stopping point. Taking a few moments in this shape, keeping your gaze ahead of you, allowing your chin to be in line with the rest of your spine. And in your own time, moving back to seated. Bending your right leg, bringing your right foot to rest against your left thigh, and in your own time, maybe starting to face your left leg. Inhale, arms reach up overhead. Exhale, folding over. Letting your hands rest anywhere on your leg, upper leg, lower leg, your feet. Maybe they rest on either side of the leg. Finding several moments to pause in this shape. Slowly walking yourself back to seated whenever you're ready. And maybe moving into a gentle side stretch. You might bring your left hand in front of your left leg. Maybe moving your upper body up towards the ceiling, bringing the right arm overhead. Pausing in this shape for a few moments. And slowly starting to come back to seated, extending your right leg out away from you and bending your left, moving into the other side, bringing the left foot to rest on the right leg. Facing your right leg, inhaling your arms come up, exhale, folding over your right leg. Hands might rest on your upper or lower leg, your foot, or on either side of your leg, and pausing in this forward fold. In your own time, coming back to seated, maybe bringing the right hand in front of your right leg, bringing your upper body up towards the ceiling, and maybe the left hand comes overhead. You might start to notice a sensation in your left side body in this shape. Moving back to center in your own time, straightening the left leg, and maybe bringing both feet back to meet each other. You might start to shake your legs a little bit, maybe bending and straightening your legs a few times. And in your own time, moving to your hands and knees. If you have sensitive knees, you might choose to bring a blanket or a cushion along your mat so that you can cushion your knees a little bit. Bringing your hands and knees to the mat. And in your own time, moving into a few cat-cow movements. Head and chest look up into cow, inhale. Exhale, lowering your head down, curving your lower back up into cat. Moving back and forth in your own time and maybe moving with your breath. Head and chest look up into cow, inhale. Exhale, lowering your head down and curving your lower back up into cat. Maybe noticing what might be moving in your spine, maybe noticing any sensations in your spine. And you might choose to move back and forth from one shape to the other, or you might choose to pause in one shape, maybe taking a few moments to notice or to breathe into that space. Taking a few more movements, experimenting a little bit longer with your cat-cows. And in your own time, maybe starting to make your way back to a neutral spine. If you'd like, you might start to move your hips from side to side. Maybe moving your hips in circles in this shape. Making this movement as big or as small as you might like. If you chose circles, maybe doing a few in one direction, and in your own time, maybe reversing the direction, possibly going the opposite way. Whenever you're ready, coming back to center. And maybe doing gentle side bends. So you might look over your left shoulder at your left foot. In your own time, come back to center and looking over your right shoulder at your right foot. Maybe moving back and forth in your own time. Maybe noticing a sensation in your side body. Maybe noticing your hips moving from side to side. And in your own time, whenever you're ready, maybe coming back to center. If you'd like, making your way to your child shape, you might keep your knees where they are, or maybe widening your knees and possibly sitting your hips back towards your feet. If you'd like, you can bring your arms out in front, maybe bringing your head down to the floor. If your head is resting on the floor or a block or book, maybe start rocking it side to side if you'd like to add movement in this shape. In your own time, if you're moving your head, bringing it back to center, and maybe starting to walk your hands over to the right side of your mat. Maybe reaching the left hand a little further than the right. You might start to notice a side stretch in this shape and possibly pausing in this place for a few moments. In your own time, maybe walking your hands back to the center. And whenever you're ready, walking them over to the left side of your mat. You might reach the right hand a little further than the left, pausing on this side. Maybe noticing a stretch in your side body on this side of the shape. Whenever you're ready, coming back to center and slowly making your way back to your hands and knees. Bringing both hands and knees back to the mat, wrists are underneath shoulders, knees are underneath your hips. And you might make your way to your first downward dog. Hands might stay where they are, or you might bring them a little far forward from where they were. Maybe pressing the toes into the mat, straightening the knees, and bringing the hips up towards the ceiling. You might start to add movement in this shape, maybe bending one knee and then the other. Almost like you're walking in place. Another choice might be to move your hips from side to side, or maybe bend and straighten your knees a few times. Always choosing to add movement if you'd like, or choosing to be still. Finding whatever you might like in your downward dog. Whenever you're ready, bringing your feet back to the mat and lowering your knees back down to the floor, coming back to your hands and knees. So you might need to bring your hands back underneath your shoulders, making sure your knees are underneath your hips. And in your own time, starting to bring the right foot in between your hands, pausing in your kneeling lunge, and maybe starting to add movement. You might choose to stay still, or you might choose to start to walk your hands forward. If you have blocks or books, you might bring your hands to blocks or books, or maybe they're resting on the floor. If you walk your hands forward, maybe bringing your hips forward as well, and maybe making this a continuous movement if you'd like. You might start to walk your hands back behind you towards your left foot. Maybe if it's available to you, you sit all the way down, or you might make this a smaller movement. Really listening to your body. So noticing if you want it to be a small movement back and forth, or maybe you choose to make it bigger. Finding whatever movement or stillness you might like in this shape in your body, and continuing to experiment in this place. And in your own time, whenever you're ready, maybe starting to bring your hands back to center, coming back to your kneeling lunge. One choice might be to bring your left hand maybe to the mat or a block or book if you have one. And you might start to bring your right arm up towards the sky. If you'd like, you can bring your gaze to look at your right hand. Maybe your gaze looks down at the floor. And whenever you're ready, bringing both hands back to the mat. If you'd like, you might start to reach the arms up towards the ceiling, maybe pausing in this shape for a moment, or you might choose to make this a movement. Maybe you bring your hands back down to the floor, and in your own time, maybe you bring your arms back up towards the ceiling. Choosing to move up and down if you'd like, or choosing to pause in one shape or the other. Maybe experimenting for another moment or two. And whenever you're ready, bringing your hands down to the floor. Starting to move into lizard shape. So you might start to walk your right foot over to the right side of your mat. Hands might make their way on the inside of the right foot. You might choose to stay here. If you do have a block or book, you might bring your hands or forearms to rest on them. Maybe your hands or forearms rest on the floor. Finding any shape in your lizard that might feel right in your body. If you notice your right hip opening to the side, you might bring your right foot up off the floor. Taking a few moments in this shape. Relaxing your shoulders if you notice any tension in your shoulders. In your own time, coming back to center. If your right foot was off the floor, bringing it back to the mat. Moving any props aside and bringing your hands back to the mat. And in your own time, bringing your right foot to meet the left. Back to your hands and knees, your table shape. Maybe taking a breath in this shape. And if you'd like, maybe keeping your hips where they are and walking your hands and head forward down your mat into puppy shape. If you have a block or book, you might bring your head to rest on that. Taking a few breaths in this shape. And whenever you're ready, bringing your hands and knees back to the mat. In your own time, bringing the left foot in between your hands into your kneeling lunge on the other side. Maybe starting to find movement in this shape. You might start to walk your hands forward. Maybe the hips follow. Maybe walking your hands back. Allowing this movement to be as big or as small as you might like it to be. Maybe you're the only one who knows there's movement in this shape. Finding what feels available for you in your body. And taking your time, experimenting with movement or stillness in your kneeling lunge. Maybe pausing if you'd like. In your own time, maybe slowly starting to make your way back to center. And you might bring the right hand to the mat or a block or book if you have them. And reach the left arm up towards the ceiling, moving into a twist on the other side. Maybe your gaze looks up at your left hand. Maybe it's down at the floor. Taking a few moments in this shape. Lowering the left hand back down to the mat. And in your own time, maybe inhaling, arms reach up overhead. You might choose to pause in this place. You might choose to add movement. Maybe your hands make their way down to the floor. And maybe you choose to do that a few times, reaching your arms back up towards the ceiling. And in your own time, bringing your hands down to the floor. Finding any movement you might like or choosing to be still in one or both of these shapes. And in your own time, bringing your hands back to the floor whenever you're ready. Moving into lizard on the other side, walking the left foot over to the left side of the mat. Hands come on the inside of the left leg. If you have a block or a book, you might bring your hands or forearms down on them, or you might choose to bring your hands or forearms to the mat. If your left hip wants to open, you might lift that left foot slightly off the mat. Finding any variation that feels right in your body, in your lizard, and pausing in this place. Maybe relaxing your shoulders if you notice that they're tense. In your own time, if your left foot was off the floor, bringing it back to the floor. Maybe bringing your hands back to the mat, moving any props aside if you had them. And in your own time, bringing your left knee to meet the right. Keeping your hips where they are and maybe walking the hands forward. Maybe the head makes its way down to the floor or block or book into your puppy shape. Taking a few moments in this shape. In your own time, maybe bringing your hands and knees back to the mat. And you might start to make your way back to your downward dog. Hands might stay where they are. Maybe they come a little forward from where they were. Pressing the toes into the mat, and in your own time, bringing the hips up to downward dog. Once you're in your downward dog, you might start to walk your feet towards your hands, pausing in a forward fold. Maybe the hands hang. You might choose to bring your opposite hand to opposite elbow into ragdoll. Maybe rocking from side to side or possibly shaking the head yes and no a few times. Allowing yourself to pause in your forward fold. Maybe adding movement or stillness. And in your own time, maybe lowering your hands down and slowly bringing yourself up to standing. Head comes up last. Maybe taking a moment once you're in standing to notice how long you might be able to stay here. On a scale of 1 to 10, could you stay in this shape for a while, or that could be a 10? Or do you feel like you need to move right away? That could be a 1. If you have a blanket on your mat, feel free to move that aside. And we'll experiment with a few lunges. But first, finding that standing shape and maybe noticing how grounded your feet feel on the floor. If you'd like, you can start to move from the balls of your feet to your heels, maybe moving back and forth a few times. Possibly starting to notice maybe how difficult or easy this movement might be. And in your own time, you might start to make the movement smaller and smaller. Whoop, I almost got stuck there on my heels. Making the movement smaller and smaller until eventually the movement stops and both feet make their way to the floor. Maybe noticing how your feet are resting now. You feel like you could stand here for longer or shorter than before. And in your own time, maybe bringing your left foot behind you into your warrior one. You might start to bend your right knee, making sure the right knee stays in line with the ankle. If you notice your knee going past your ankle, maybe bringing it back a little bit. You want to make sure you can see your right toes. Hips might be facing the front of your mat. And in your own time, you might start to bring your arms up overhead. Warrior one. Maybe gaze is in front of you at the front of your mat. You might relax your shoulders in this space. And your left foot, toes are pointing towards the front of the mat. Your heel might be on or off the floor. In your own time, maybe straightening your right knee and starting to elongate your arms up towards the ceiling. Spine elongates towards the ceiling. You might start to hinge your upper body forward, eventually making your way to your pyramid shape. Hands might gently rest on the right leg. They might make their way on either side of the leg to the floor or to blocks or books if you have them. Keeping your core engaged, so imagining your belly button is pulling back towards your spine so that there's limited weight in your hands. Really allowing the hands to be soft wherever they're resting, maybe letting your head hang, and you might start to shake your head yes and no a few times. In your own time, maybe slowly bringing yourself back to standing. And you might start to bring both feet back towards each other at the front of your mat. Maybe bringing both feet hip width apart. Bringing all your weight to your right leg. And you might bring both hands resting in front of your chest, or you might bring them to your hips. In your own time, starting to bend your left knee, maybe keeping the left toes on the floor, or if you'd like, you might start to bring the left knee in towards your chest. So that left knee is bending up, coming towards your torso. Foot comes up off the floor. Maybe finding a spot in front of you to focus your gaze on. That can help with your balance. Maybe pausing in this shape if you'd like, playing around with your balance, and knowing that if you fall over, that is part of this practice. So you can always get right back in and try again. In your own time, bringing the left foot down, hands come down, maybe shaking the arms and legs out a little bit. Once again, bringing the left leg behind you, making your way to your warrior two. Left foot is parallel to the back of your mat. Right knee is bent. Once again, keeping the knee in line with your ankle. And bringing your right hand forward, maybe left hand reaches back behind you. Gaze might be on your right hand, relaxing and resting your shoulders in your warrior two. Taking a few moments in this shape. In your own time, maybe adding movement, you might bring your left hand to your back leg gently, and maybe bring the right arm up overhead into reverse warrior. In your own time, you might start to move forward, maybe bringing your right forearm to rest on your right thigh, maybe bringing your left arm overhead. You might choose to pause in one shape or the other, or maybe moving from one shape to the other in your own time. Finding whatever works for you, whatever you might like to experiment with. And in your own time, maybe making your way back to your warrior two. Straightening your right knee if you'd like, and maybe starting to hinge the upper body and right hand forward. Gently bringing the right hand to rest on the right leg or a block or book if you have one. Keeping, once again, the core engaged. So bringing the belly button towards the spine, left arm reaches up overhead, maybe gaze is up at your left hand, or maybe you choose to look down to the floor. Making your way to triangle shape. In your own time, coming back up to standing, lowering your head, hands down, and bringing both feet together once again at the front of your mat. Moving into another balancing shape, bringing all your weight to your right leg. Hands might be at your hips or maybe resting, palms touching in front of your chest. Moving into your tree shape. You might start by kickstanding the left heel against the right ankle. Maybe you pause here with left toes on the floor, or maybe you bring the left leg to your ankle or above your knee. So you might bring it to your upper leg, anywhere above or below the knee, keeping off the knee joint. Maybe finding a spot in front of you to focus your gaze on, and if you'd like, you might choose to bring your arms up overhead into your tree shape. Maybe pretending it's a windy day, which actually it is a bit windy out there today. So maybe moving your arms to see if you can keep your balance. And if you can't, that's part of our practice. Making your way back to your tree shape in your own time. Taking another moment or two in this space, and whenever you're ready, lowering your arms down, bringing your leg down, maybe shaking arms and legs out again. Making your way to the front of your mat if you're not already there. And this time moving into the other side, bringing your right foot behind you into warrior one. Toes of your right foot are pointing towards the front of your mat. Left knee is bent. Hips are facing the front of your mat. Arms reach up overhead. Taking a few moments in your warrior one. Maybe noticing if you can bend your left knee a little more. Whenever you're ready, maybe straightening your left knee, reaching your arms and spine up towards the ceiling, and hinging forward in your own time. Eventually bringing your hands down to gently rest on your left leg or on either side of your left leg, or on blocks or books if you have them. Keeping your core engaged, your belly button reaching towards your spine. Hands have minimal weight in them, and maybe letting your head hang, possibly shaking your head yes and no. Taking a few breaths in this shape. In your own time, coming back to standing, bringing both feet back together at the front of your mat, moving in to one balancing shape on the other side, bringing all your weight to your left leg. Hands might be at your hips or in front of your chest, and maybe bending the right knee a little bit. Toes might stay on the floor, or if you'd like, you might start to bend the right knee, bring it in towards your upper body. Maybe pausing in this shape, maybe finding a spot in front of you to focus your gaze on. Noticing if you're still breathing. Pausing in this shape. And if you fall out of it, knowing you can always get right back in and try again. In your own time, lowering your leg down, bringing your arms down, maybe shaking arms and legs out. Moving into your warrior two, this time bringing the right leg behind you. Right foot is parallel to the back of your mat. Left knee is bent, keeping the knee in line with your ankle. Maybe left hands forward, right hands behind you. Gaze might be on your left hand. Taking a few moments in your warrior two. Relaxing your shoulders if you notice if there's tension there. And maybe adding movement in your warrior two on this side. You might bring your right hand to your right leg. Maybe left arm reaches up overhead into reverse warrior. In your own time, you might start to move forward, maybe bringing your left forearm on your upper left leg. Maybe right arm comes up overhead. Choosing to move back and forth at your own pace. Maybe pausing in one shape for a moment or two before moving to the other shape, finding any movement or stillness you might like. In your own time, maybe slowly making your way back to your warrior two. Straightening your left knee and starting to hinge your upper body and left hand forward. Maybe slowly bringing your left hand to gently rest on your left leg or a block or a book if you have one. Again, keeping the core engaged and maybe reaching your right arm towards the ceiling. Gaze might be down at the floor or up at your right hand. In your own time, maybe slowly coming back to standing, lowering your hands down, walking both feet back to the front of your mat in your own time. Bringing yourself into your tree shape, bringing all your weight to your left leg, and maybe bringing your hands to your hips or in front of your chest. Kickstanding the right foot against the left ankle and maybe pausing in this shape, or you might choose to bring your right foot to rest on your left ankle or above or below the knee, finding anywhere off the knee joint. So finding anywhere above or below your knee, maybe finding a spot in front of you to focus your gaze on, and maybe balancing in your tree shape. If you'd like, you can bring your arms overhead, growing your tree branches, and maybe moving your arms with the wind to see how you might be able to keep your balance. Finding whatever comes up for you, and if you fall over, knowing you can always get right back in and try again. Taking several breaths on this side of the shape. In your own time, bringing your hands down, leg comes down, maybe shaking all of that out. And bringing both feet hip-width apart, or you might bring them together, bending your knees and sitting your hips back into chair shape. You might bring your arms up overhead, maybe imagining there's a chair behind you that you're about to sit in. And in your own time, bringing your hands down, making your way to your forward fold. You might bring your feet out if they weren't already at hip-width apart. Maybe make your way to ragdoll, opposite hand to opposite elbow, or you might choose to bring your hands behind your ankles. Pausing in this shape for a few moments. And in your own time, maybe releasing your hands down and slowly making your way down to the floor. Coming to a seated shape in your own time, maybe bringing both feet, the bottoms of your feet touching in front of your body. Coming into your bound angle. You might move your feet maybe close to your upper body, or you might move them a little further away. Maybe noticing different sensations depending on where your feet are resting. And if you have blocks or books, you might bring them underneath your knees, or any cushions will do as well if you have them and want to cushion your knees where they are. Maybe once again, imagining a string pulling your head and spine up towards the ceiling. You might start to notice your spine elongating once you do that. You might pause in this shape, or maybe start to walk your hands forward, maybe moving into a forward fold if that's available for you. Head might make its way down towards the floor. Finding seated or forward fold in your bound angle and pausing in that place. You might even choose to close your eyes or keep a soft gaze in front of you. In your own time, maybe starting to make your way back to seated if you're not already there. You might bring your knees in towards each other and maybe straightening your legs out. Once more, making your way to your staff shape, you might flex your feet, maybe keeping your hands on the floor or your legs. Imagining that string pulling your head and spine up towards the ceiling, pausing in your staff shape. You might feel your legs activating out and your spine and head reaching up towards the ceiling. Taking a few moments in this shape. In your own time, inhaling, arms reach up overhead. Exhaling, maybe folding over your legs, letting your hands fall anywhere that feels right for you, whether it's your upper legs, lower legs, your feet. Pausing in this shape. Moving back to seated in your own time. And whenever you're ready, starting to make your way to lie on your back. Finding your way to the floor. Slowly making your way there in your own time. Maybe keeping your knees bent, or you might choose to keep your legs long. And maybe noticing how your body is resting as you lie on the floor. In your own time, you might bring your feet back to the mat, maybe bending your knees, keeping your feet on the mat. And maybe bringing your right ankle to rest on your left thigh. You might choose to stay in your figure four in this shape, or if you'd like, you might bring your hands behind your left leg, maybe moving into the full figure four. Choosing either variation of your figure four and pausing in that place. In your own time, bringing both feet back to the mat and maybe moving into the other side. You might bring your left ankle to rest on your right thigh. You might choose to stay in this place, or if you'd like, you might bring your hands behind your right leg, bringing both feet up off the floor. Finding either variation that you might like for your body, and taking a few breaths in this place. In your own time, bringing both feet back down to the floor. And maybe extending your right leg up towards the ceiling. You might choose to bring your hands behind your right leg, maybe holding it there. Maybe moving your leg forward and back. You might choose to move it side to side. Maybe choosing to move your right ankle in circles. Taking your time to experiment with any of these choices. In your own time, lowering your right leg down to the floor and maybe bringing the left leg up towards the ceiling. You might bring your hands behind your left leg if you'd like to hold it there. You might choose to move your left leg forward and back, maybe side to side, maybe moving your ankle in circles. Finding any movement on this side of the shape. In your own time, maybe lowering your left leg down to the mat. And you might bring both knees into your chest, maybe bringing your arms around your knees, possibly rocking from side to side. You might move your legs in circles as well, finding any movement or stillness that you might like. And in your own time, coming back to center, maybe moving both legs over to the right side of your body. You might bring the right leg to the floor, left leg is on top. Maybe you bring your upper body to rest on your right side. Or if you'd like a different choice, you might extend your arms out in a T shape on either side of you, maybe moving in a twist, bringing your gaze over your left shoulder. Finding either variation and pausing on this side of the shape for a few breaths. In your own time, maybe making your way back to center, you might hug your knees into your chest again. And whenever you're ready, moving over to the other side, bringing the left leg to the floor, right leg on top, maybe bringing your upper body to roll on your left side, or you might extend your arms out in a T shape on either side of your body, maybe bringing your head to look over your right shoulder. Allowing yourself to rest on your side or maybe in a twist and pausing on this side of the shape. In your own time, whenever you're ready, maybe coming back to center, you might hug your knees into your chest, maybe rocking from side to side, and in your own time, making your way to your rest. You might choose to keep your knees bent, feet on the floor. You might extend your legs long down your mat. Another choice might be to bring your hands to rest on your body, or maybe your hands are by your sides. You can also choose to make your way to seated. I'm going to make my way to seated so I can walk you through the last part of class, but feel free to find any shape that feels right in your body. And if you do have any props, you might use them to cushion yourself in your lying down shape, or if you chose to be seated in that shape as well. Once you settle into this final resting shape, maybe closing your eyes or keeping a soft gaze in front of you. And you might start to notice once again what your breath might be doing in this place. What are your inhales and exhales like? Does your body move with your breathing? And in your own time, maybe starting to notice how your body is resting. Maybe noticing how your feet are resting. Maybe one foot is resting a little different than the other. Maybe bringing your attention to your legs and maybe noticing how each leg might be resting. Maybe noticing if one leg feels a little different than the other. Slowly making your way up your body, possibly noticing your hips and how each hip might be resting on the floor. You might make your way to your lower back, and if you'd like, you might bring a hand, maybe feeling if there's a curve in your lower back. Maybe bring both hands. You might experiment and find that maybe there's a curve in your lower back, or maybe there isn't. Taking a few moments to notice. And in your own time, maybe slowly bringing your attention up your back, maybe noticing your middle back and how your middle back might be resting. Maybe bringing your attention to your upper back and your shoulders. Maybe noticing how each of your shoulders is resting. Is one shoulder resting a little different than the other? Taking a moment or two to notice what might be coming up for you. And maybe bringing your attention to your arms. Maybe noticing how each arm is resting. Do both arms feel the same, or do they feel a little different from one another? Maybe bringing your attention to your head and neck. And if you'd like, you might move the head gently from side to side. Maybe noticing if one side feels a little more available for movement than the other. Letting go of that in your own time. And maybe taking a moment or two to notice your whole body. Maybe bringing your attention to your whole body. And I'll be silent for the last 3 minutes of class. So feel free to be still in this time, or feel free to add movement if you'd like. Finding whatever might work for you in that time of silence. In your own time, maybe slowly starting to bring some movement back into your body. You might start to wiggle your fingers and your toes, maybe moving your wrists and ankles in circles. Another choice might be to bring your arms up overhead for a full body stretch. And if you're lying down, maybe rolling to one side, maybe taking a few moments in that place before making your way back to seated. Finding your way to seated in your own time. And maybe bringing your palms together in front of your chest. May the light within me honor the light within each of you. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Kristin O'Donnell, and I'm happy to bring this yoga class for you on behalf of Hands to Heart Center and the Boston Public Library.